ABAP-based SAP system. ABAP-based SAP system. Okay, now we want to know about that ABAP-based SAP system. First of all, we want to know instances. SAP instances. Okay, we want to know about instances. Nowadays, instances are also called as SAP application server. Okay, now first of all, we want to know mandatory instances. So first of all, we want to know mandatory instances. Every ABAP, whatever product version we are using, whatever product version we are using and installing ABAP-based SAP system, mandatory instances are primary application server instance. In olden days, it is called as primary application server instance. In olden days, it is called as central instance. And ABAP central service instance. In shortcut, we called as ACS instance. And database instance. These three are mandatory instances. These three are mandatory instances. Mandatory instances means compulsory. We want to build these three instances. That is the meaning. So whatever product version we use SAP S/4HANA 2025 or whatever SAP NetWeaver or SAP ERP. For example, I show here. Now I show. So here, so it is what it is, SAP NetWeaver 7.5. In SAP NetWeaver 7.5, here we see means ACS instance, primary application server instance is there. Like that in S/4HANA also we see means primary application server instance, ACS instance, and this is the database. So compulsory. Why we want after installing? So in installing time, what we do here in installing time, I show that one also. Here we see. For example, here we saw I'm installing SAP ERP 6.0 EHP6. I want to install. Here we saw in olden days, it is called as central system. Here we saw what I'm doing, installation of EHP6 for SAP ERP 6.0. I'm installing SAP ERP 6.0 EHP6. In olden days, it is called as standard system. Sorry, central system. Okay. Now here we saw ABAP central service instance, ACS instance, database instance, central instance. Okay. Now in present, I'm installing here we saw NetWeaver 7.5. I want to install, or otherwise we go to ECC only. EHP for SAP ERP 6.0 ABAP. I'm going. Now here we saw, here central system, here central system, here standard system. Okay. So here we saw ABAP central service instance, ACS instance, database instance, primary application server instance, but here central instance. So central instance previous name is, sorry, in olden days it is called as central instance. Nowadays it is called as primary application server instance. Here we saw mandatory instances of an EHP for SAP ERP 6.0 ABAP. So we use any product version. We are installing ABAP system means these three instances are mandatory instances. Those are called as instances. These three are instances. So we are installing ABAP system. When we are installing mandatory instances of an ABAP system. Mandatory instances of ABAP system. Mandatory instances of an ABAP system. These three are mandatory instances. Mandatory instances means compulsory we want to install. For example, bike is there. In bike, main petrol tank is main, engine is main, like that. In our human body also, heart, lungs, like that some main part is there, no? Like that here also, when we are installing any ABAP-based SAP system, use any product version. We use SAP S/4HANA product, or we use SAP ERP Enhanced Package product, or we use SAP NetWeaver 7.5. or we use SAP Solution Manager 7.2. or we use NetWeaver ABAP 7.52. Like that, whatever product version we are using, we are installing ABAP system means these three are mandatory instances, compulsory we want to install. Here we saw. Why I install these three instances here? Here we see means I install database instance, ACS instance, primary application server instance. Here clearly I install database, ACS instance, primary application server instance. Why I install means these three are mandatory instances. Without these three instances, SAP system building is not possible in ABAP-based SAP system. So now we got it. What are the mandatory instances? That means when we are installing any product version, we are installing ABAP-based SAP system is that three instances compulsory we install. After installation is completed in your system, we check means that three instances compulsory available. Database instance, primary application server instance, and ABAP central service instance. So ACS instance, shortcut. In full form, we called as ABAP Central Service Instance. That means we called as ACS instance, or we called as ABAP Central Service Instance. We called as database instance. We called as primary application server instance, or in shortcut, we called as PAS instance. PAS instance or primary application server instance. Okay, now we got it. What are the mandatory instances in ABAP-based SAP system? We want to learn. Who are learning SAP basis course, they want to talk that instances name fluently, like that only. ABAP Central Service Instance, or we called as ACS instance. Primary Application Server Instance, or we called as PAS instance. Database instance. Like that fluently we want to speak. So, and another important point, ABAP-based SAP system. ABAP-based SAP system. Okay. So another important point is ABAP-based SAP system. Now, ABAP-based SAP system we called as ABAP also. Means in shortcut, we called as ABAP-based SAP system, or in shortcut we called as ABAP, or otherwise application server ABAP. Like that also we call ABAP-based SAP system, or ABAP, or application server ABAP. We call like that. Okay, now these three are mandatory instances. We got it clearly. Only these three instances only is available in ABAP-based SAP system, or otherwise any other instances? Yeah. Additional application server instance. Additional application server instance, AAS. Additional application server instance. In shortcut, we called as AAS. Yes, so we called as AAS instance, or we called as additional application server instance. Next, NQ replication server instance, or we called as ERS instance, or we called as ERS instance. These two are not a mandatory instances. These two are not mandatory instances. Not mandatory instances means what is that meaning? We have requirement means we want to install these two instances. There is no requirement means no need to install these two instances. These three are mandatory instances. That means compulsory we want to install these three instances. When we install these three instances, on that time only it is possible to build ABAP system. So by installing these three instances, it is possible to build ABAP system. Suppose I did not install these two instances, means no problem. Without installing these two instances, it is possible to build ABAP system. Without installing additional application server instance, without installing NQ replication server instance, it is possible to build ABAP system. But without installing primary application server instance, or without installing ABAP central service instance, or without installing database instance, it is not possible to build ABAP system. That is the meaning of mandatory instances. That is the meaning of required instances. So total 5 instances is available in ABAP-based SAP system. ABAP-based SAP system. In ABAP-based SAP system, primary application server instance, in shortcut we called as PAS. So primary application server instance. And next, database instance. Next, ABAP central service instance. In shortcut we called as ASCS. These three are mandatory instances. Next, additional application server instance. In shortcut we called as AS. Next, NQ replication server instance. In shortcut is called as ERS instance. So total 5 instances is available in ABAP-based SAP system. So these three are mandatory instances. We want to install ABAP-based SAP system means compulsory these 3 instances we want to install. So additional requirement instances 2 is there. Total 5 instances is available in ABAP-based SAP system. So this is about, so here just I'm telling how many instances is available for ABAP-based SAP system. Now in that instances, what are the mandatory instances, what are the requirement instances? So that information I am providing. And another important point, entire SAP business, entire SAP business developed in ABAP-based SAP system only. ABAP-based SAP system only. Entire business developed in ABAP-based SAP system only. Only ABAP system only supported. Only ABAP system only supported to develop business. So ABAP-based SAP system only, that system only supported for developing business. So that's why in company, they use ABAP-based SAP system for developing business. So that is only business software. That ABAP-based SAP system only supported for developing business. So ABAP-based SAP system only supported to develop business. So that's why in company they use ABAP-based SAP system for developing business purpose. So this is about to ABAP-based SAP system. So completed. Topic is completed about ABAP-based SAP system.